welcome back to Talking Shop.
I'm Essence.
I'm Emily.
And happy Sunday.
It is Sunday. Well,
Yeah,
happy Monday to you when you're listening.
Yes. And shout out to us for getting it out on a Monday because it's been a minute.
We're going to do our best, people.
We are in the midst of planning, like we talked about on our last episode, our Diverse Fest. And we were meeting every 3 weeks with our committee on Mondays, but now we're meeting every 2 weeks as it gets closer. So that is taking up our Mondays.
We're less than 2 months. So October 10th, put it on your calendars.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of event type things coming up.
Yeah.
So if you like listening to our voices, you should go to our website and see all the things we're doing.
Essence worked really hard to update our website with a rolling calendar of our events. So if you're wondering where in the world are Essence and Emily,
when it's not at home, because that's where we are most of the time,
then check the calendar.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we get into our game?
Yeah.
All right. Well, unlike other episodes, we've pre-planned.
I mean, not super, like, not a ton, right? Like, we've only planned the initial segment.
Yeah.
So I maybe wouldn't say that.
I think this is the first time you and I sat down in a minute and said, which ones are we picking?
Well, that was because I was trying to recall. Well, if you're new here, we start each episode with talking about people we like, people we would want to work for, and people we would want to that are our nemesis. Is that the plural of nemesis?
Well, so it's a game that we call Work Wife, Work Overlord, Work Nemesis. We each pick 3 characters, 3 celebrities. We've done last episode we did Wordle games.
It's honestly just 3 things. Like
3 things.
We couldn't tell you what
and we decide which one we want to be our work wife, which is like our work bestie, our work overlord, which is our boss, and our work nemesis, which is pretty self-explanatory. And we're about to go see 6 in theaters.
Like literally in an hour.
Yeah. So we are going to use the 6 ex-wives of Henry VIII for our game today.
And if you are an American, I would be very interested on if you learned the little rhyme thing. If you are like caught up with that, the divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, because I didn't learn that. I learned it, like my social studies teacher did like a whole song on Henry VIII, but it was not, he was like the main character, not the women, per usual.
Ew.
My social studies teacher was in fact a man, but he did play guitar, so that was fun.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the 3 Catherines.
Okay.
Because that was easiest in my head to remember. And so we have divorced, died, survived.
No. Divorced, beheaded, survived.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Catherine of Aragon was divorced. Catherine Howard was beheaded. Catherine Parr survived.
Okay. That part.
Okay.
I'm like, I know the songs. I could sing them to you and I could all of that. But in this context, just talking about them, my brain does not access. It's like in my amygdala, not in my frontal lobe. So useless.
It's just hard because I like all 3 of them in the context of the musical. And that's gonna suck to have to pick one to be a nemesis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I would make Catherine of Aragon my work wife because she understands loyalty.
Okay. Stockholm syndrome is in fact loyalty.
I don't know if I would argue that it's Stockholm syndrome.
Carry on.
Interesting thing. But I think they were married for 24 years.
Yeah.
She knew her value and her worth.
Mm-hmm.
And she was unafraid to make her wants known. When Henry VIII wanted something different, she said, "Tell me what I have done."
Yeah.
And I think like she stands on business, and I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good partner to have.
Wait, I feel like, can you say them with their story? Because I think it's mixed up who was.
So Catherine of Aragon was married to Henry VIII for 24 years.
She's the first one.
She was his first wife.
Okay, I only need that part. Yeah. But I think I confused them because I thought that was the last one.
No, Catherine Parr was the one. Or I said survive.
Yeah, but it's not my brain does
Only
not.
one of them made it out.
Yeah, but my brain is not attaching them to their character just by their last name because that's not how I learned them. So that's why I was saying that. Like, if you can say their like identifying characteristic for me and I guess the listeners.
Yeah. So Catherine of Aragon, they were married for 24 years, and he wanted the Vatican to annul the marriage because he wanted to marry Anne Boleyn.
Yes. Okay.
Catherine Howard was the one who he beheaded for having sex outside of marriage, like adultery, I guess.
Is she the one with the weirdo music teacher?
Yes.
Yes.
That.
See, that's like that is how I hear people is like by their stories, not by their names. So it's like hard to pick it up.
Yeah. And then Catherine Parr was the one who was like in a relationship with somebody else that had to give that up.
Yeah, because he
Henry
wanted
to
to
marry her.
Yes.
And then she outlived him.
Slay.
Yeah. I think in the context of like the story from the musical, I think Catherine Parr would be a good work overlord. Because in the musical, she's like, I went out and found my girls and like put our band together.
Yeah.
And she kind of like initiates the whole like unifying of the group.
She like makes something out
Yeah.
of the trauma that they all shared.
For sure. Which like makes me sad to make Catherine Howard my nemesis. She's very clearly traumatized.
Is that why you hate her?
No. Clip it.
Yeah.
No, I think like it's process of elimination. I feel like nemesis in this situation would be like we're not like hanging out and talking. Like we're cordial, but
not you translating nemesis into acquaintance.
No. I have nothing against her. I don't really necessarily see any issue with her as a human being. I think she had a rough hand dealt to her.
Word.
So those would be my three.
Okay.
So you would have Anne Boleyn, which
I know her.
Yeah. Jane Seymour, which was the only one who birthed their son.
The only one he truly loved.
Weird. And then Anne of Cleves. Which was the one who had the portrait.
Yeah. I know them because their names are different. It's just the three Catherines that like trip me up.
Yeah.
Okay. I think my nemesis is Jane.
Okay.
Because that's like her whole thing is like trying to make herself special. And I think they all seriously, I think like all of them brought something different with like their contributions, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that when we start to define like our purpose or like our identity in somebody else's views of us, I don't like that. So I think because it was all about like approval and like differentiating herself to make herself like feel better or whatever in the musical, I don't know her actual life story, but I think that gets old, especially like in a work sense. I don't want somebody that's always like, yeah, you're here, but I'm this, because I don't like that. So that's her. And then I feel like, is it Anna or Anne?
They said either one.
Okay. Well, Anna Work, Overlord, for sure. She literally won.
Feminist icon.
Literally won. Yes. Like she was like, oh, you don't like me? That's fine. I'm gonna go have a time. And she did in fact have a time. And I like that. So honestly, goals.
Yeah.
So I guess that makes Anne Boleyn my work wife, which tracks. I feel like she liked to have a good time and knew what she wanted and was not afraid to disrupt the system, which is something that I dig.
You can get behind.
Yeah.
Go see Six if you haven't. It's an incredible musical. It's so different than I think a lot of the musicals out there, but would highly recommend.
Yeah, and if you have been around since the beginning, that is what we went and saw the day before my birthday.
Yeah.
I was like, I forgot what day my birthday was on, but that's what Emily took me to see the night before Day of Essence. So I have a special love for Six, but also I don't think we spoke the entire time we saw it. We just like
mesmerized.
Every once in a while we like look over at each other, but like our jaws were on the ground.
Yeah,
basically. So
you like drag? That is basically.
It was very like.
It's basically
draggy.
Drag show.
Yeah,
I love.
So we're jazzed to see it in theaters, and I guess
stay tuned for the. You'll hear the review.
Yeah, stay tuned for the review.
What are we talking about? That wasn't meant to stump you.
I'm stumped. as if we didn't just cut out the entire section of us actually talking this through. Because believe it or not, I'm sure you do believe it, we don't actually prepare before we sit down. We just kind of like vibe. It's
Yeah.
worked out so far, so we're
At
doing that.
times we have.
Yeah, but not a ton. Like because this is like genuinely how our brains work.
Yeah.
So we're
Well,
not like over here like overly preparing.
well, and we told like our audience when we first started that we wanted it to be like a conversation.
Right.
And so some
So
of our best conversations happen spontaneously.
most, I feel like
Yeah.
they're like better that way.
Welcome to the spontaneous.
So I don't remember what we agreed. Oh, jeez. Um, I guess my meds are wearing off. I don't know. So we're working on some projects right now with different organizations of different sizes, like pretty significantly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has been kind of fun is being a part of like action planning and strategic planning and looking at the ways that they want to like grow their organizations. And a theme that we're noticing, and honestly, like now that I'm saying words out loud, this is like a theme that I notice in therapy and like kind of across the board
Mm-hmm.
is I feel like there is a missing piece that a lot of people kind of fall into with their goals and saying like, oh, we want to do this or we want to do that, that like people are very ambitious. And I think that's great. Like we need that. But I think that one of the things that people forget a lot of the times is having enough to like maintain the changes that they want to make or to maintain like the programmatic elements or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be, that I think people overestimate their own capacity because they don't have an awareness of how to keep track of that on an individual or a systemic level.
No. I think like hope plays an incredible like factor, like an incredible amount into that piece too. Cause I think like when people have hope, they often neglect their own capacity or the capacity of like the resources around them. Excitement and the belief that like something can be different
Mhm.
um often has people skip really important steps because like nobody wants to sit in a meeting and be like the Debbie Downer.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to sit and be like everyone is like
the what about person.
yeah, everyone is dreaming and like in the theme park world they call it like blue skying. It
Mhm.
is like what can we develop if like there were no limitations or restrictions?
The miracle question.
Yeah, like what would you do? And nobody wants to sit in the meeting and consistently be the person that grounds everybody back in reality.
Yeah, well, I think that they're different meetings. Well, they should be or could be.
Mhm.
Um, like I know in like therapy intakes for me, like I will ask people when I'm first meeting them, like let's say a year from now or 6 months from now, your life is amazing and you can look back and say like therapy really worked for you. What would be different?
Mhm.
And I ask them that like up front to see like what are your expectations? Like what do you want? What could happen in your eyes? And sometimes when I ask that, people are like very small. Like they're like, "Oh, I just like want to have like two coping skills." And I'm like, "Okay, like we can dream a little bigger." And then some people are like, "I want to have a really healthy, amazing relationship and I want to get a raise at work," and like all these things that I'm like, "Okay, like we need to pick one thing." Um but those don't happen at the same time.
Mhm.
And I think that is an area actually that like we have had to navigate in like our own kind of relationship outside of work is you are a very like logistical, practical
Mhm.
person and I am a dreamer um that doesn't always like I build the plan, like the goal outcome and then I figure out how to get there.
Mhm.
And you consider how to get there as you are coming up with like what the goal may be.
Mhm.
Which makes us pretty effective, I think, as a team
Yeah.
to be able to like see both sides and stuff. But I think like in a meeting setting, I would tell people if that is a theme that you run into, to have two separate meetings. One where the only thing that we're doing is talking about all the things that everything could be
Mhm.
and should be and would be if you could have everything without any limitations. And then having like a logistics meeting to break it down. That's how we do it now.
Mhm.
And I think it works really well because people do get excited, but you can't get excited if you have a person that's always like pulling you back and being like, what can't happen because of this? Or what about that?
I think capacity when we like think about it is both like short term and long term. because capacity is what we have to give like day to day, but also what are the resources like long term that like an organization at large has accessible to
Mhm.
them. And I think there so where some of like the biggest conflict starts to happen is when you have individuals who have the day to day capacity to start dreaming, but an organization that doesn't have the capacity to like actually execute on the plan.
Mhm.
Or you have an organization that's like ready to go, but individuals who are like so drowning in the work that they're doing that they can't
Mhm.
even like see, 6 inches in front of their face.
Right.
That when we talk about understanding capacity, it is capacity at all levels, not just what monetary resources
Mhm.
does an organization have, or is the board ready to move, but your staff can't get caught up on a day's work becomes
Mhm.
really important conversations to have among like all levels of the system.
Could you differentiate between capacity and resources?
Yeah. So I think a really helpful tool that I use in like therapy a lot is something called the spoon theory. And I think the spoon theory is a great way of making our own like personal resources or like what we have to give each day.
Mhm.
Um a good way to like make it tangible and like something that you can like practically think about. And so the idea with the spoon theory is if you woke up one day and you had 12 spoons to give that day,
Mm,
how would you allocate those resources knowing that you only have 12 to give and each activity might take a different amount of spoons. So like getting up and out of bed is like a 1 spoon activity for some
mhm.
people. Going and like working out is a 4 spoon activity for some people. Going to work might be a 3 spoon for some person and like a one
Mhm.
spoon for another person, just depending on what each person's like individual ability is
Mhm.
and like what barriers there are to them living their life. And so when I think about capacity, it is what do you have left that is not already allocated? So, like, if
Mhm.
you have predictable things in your day that, like, are just gonna, like, take up resources, then you kind of don't have those sprints to begin with because they're pre-planned, you really can't get out of them. It's things like scheduled doctor's appointments, work expectations,
Mhm.
school for some people, if you're taking care of a child, those things. Those are, behaviors that are going to take up those resources, and
Mhm.
spoons are your resources. And then
Interesting.
capacity is whatever you have left that is unallocated. And so to me, resources are both physical and mental when we're talking about an individual.
Mhm.
So what does your body have to give? What can your brain like sustain attention on?
Mhm.
Engage in critical thinking and problem solving, all of those things. And then when I think at like an organizational level, I think about manpower. I think about what are the tools, what are the community connections, how do we distribute expectations, and then like job, like I guess job roles or job expectations. And whatever your capacity is what is already not allocated.
Okay, so you're kind of doing it as like the sum, like in your head.
Hmm.
Okay, I think about it differently. And that's actually why I asked the question was like, I wonder if this is something where having a common definition would be helpful.
For sure.
Because I think when we talk about this, like it means different things. I think when you talked about spoon theory, that is how I think about capacity. Like
Mm,
capacity being like the absolute most that you could do based on what you have available. So like if I know that I like capacity on like my phone battery is 100%.
yeah.
I can never go beyond 100%. So like that is as good as it gets. And then the resources is like the tools that I have to function within whatever my capacity
Mhm.
is. Um so I kind of think about them like they're
But I think
separately but related.
Well, I think at the end of the day, in like the way I view it and the way you view it, is you can't go above 100%. So like
Yeah.
where you cap out is where you cap out, but how we conceptualize what we have to give is different.
Yeah. But you said the capacity is what was left over.
Yes, but understanding that like you can't get more than 12 spoons. So like if I had 12 spoons in a day and 4 are already allocated, for like other things that I have to do, then
Mhm.
like capacity is everywhere between like 4 and 12. So that 8 extra spots is where my capacity is to handle unexpected or not planned
Mm.
or unpredictable stressors.
Okay, yeah, so I don't map them, I guess, in that way.
Yeah.
I wonder if part of that, and I think we talked about this on, when we talked about self-care, is how we've actually experienced
Mhm.
capacity also, because I think that for me and, like, I guess anybody that can relate to, like, the spoon theory thing,
Mhm.
my capacity is unpredictable.
Yeah.
And so, like, even if I know that I have certain things allocated, I could wake up tomorrow and I need to give out, 80%, but I woke up with 60. Like,
Mhm.
there isn't always left over
Mhm.
in that sense. And so I think I wonder if that plays a role in how I think about capacity is like our capacity to do stuff and the resources that we have available in an ideal world are connected where like as one goes up the other and vice versa.
Yeah.
But I think oftentimes when we think about like organizations, they function very much like an individual with a chronic illness where on your best days what you can get done,
Mhm.
but not every day is your best day.
Yeah.
Um Most of the time capacity is like ever changing, especially the bigger you get and the more people that are involved and the more
Mhm.
like factors, the less in some ways it can be more predictable depending on the factors, but in other ways it can be very unpredictable and
Mhm.
challenging to plan around. And so because it is not easy to predict about, people tend to just not try and kind of overlook it as a concept because it's a wild card.
Yeah. Well, I think an important thing when I teach like spoon theory to people is also recognizing that like 12 spoons is never guaranteed. That like we all have this kind of like reservoir of like extra resources or extra energy that exists. Like we all have the capacity to have more than 12 spoons like in a bank at one time. But if we overuse spoons, then we're borrowing from our reserves. And those don't replenish in the same way that, like, they might replenish when we go to bed and wake up. But another piece that is also, like, important to recognize is that if we have a bad night's sleep, if we have a chronic illness
Mhm.
that's like we have insomnia or something that gets in the way of restful sleep, is you're never guaranteed 12 spoons.
Mhm.
That, like, you could wake up with 6 spoons, but you needed 12 spoons that day. But, like, your kid kept you up all night because they've been sick, that there's a lot of
Mhm.
things that can pull for your, like, resources that allow that, like, total amount that you wake up with each day to be variable. So, when I teach people the concept of, like, spoon theory, I think it starts out as a very, like, static concept because the thing that you really wanna teach people is the assessment of what are the things in their day to day that are gonna take resources predictably. Like, what's gonna eat up spoons?
Mhm.
And, like, if you can get good at understanding what takes up your spoons, then the next phase that I teach people is, like, the self-assessment piece of, like, can you go back
We
and
do this so different. Like, these are always, like, interesting concepts
Yeah.
when we start to hit that because I actually start with recognizing what it means to be over capacity.
Hmm.
Like, complete opposite end of the thing is, like, what does it feel like when you're out?
Hmm.
And how do you recognize that you're out? Okay, what does that tell us about what you have to give? And then I do the other things. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was just like, "Oh, like."
Yeah, and I think that an important piece is the self-assessment.
Mhm.
However you're gonna teach it or however it best resonates
Yeah.
with you is, like, self-assessment is an integral part of understanding your capacity.
Yeah, like self-awareness and then ongoing assessment for sure.
Yeah, and that is something that I think most people miss,
Mhm.
or they utilize their emotions as the self-assessment or self-awareness piece when emotions are temporary and are meant to be reactions to the environment. So when you're sitting in a meeting and everyone's super excited about the next big change that's going to happen, or everyone's really excited about this project that's getting floated because it's
Mhm.
there's something they're super passionate about, they might misassess their own capacity
Will
if
overestimate.
they are utilizing the emotion in the room, or they are using somebody else's emotions to give them insight into what their capacity is when
Mhm.
everyone's super jazzed about something and excited and hype and all of those things, they're like, yeah, I could do that. I can commit to that.
Mhm.
And then the time comes and you're like, I don't know why I committed to that.
Yeah, very much so. I think that's what makes it really important to be able to think through, like, well, I guess first, like, what does it feel like? Like, what is your, like, sweet spot? Because I know that, for me and for a lot of people that are neurodivergent, there is a sweet spot for, like, stimulation.
Yeah.
And so if there is too much going on and, like, you have too much output, that is beyond what you can handle in a way that, like, and I think everybody can kind of relate to that, like, overstimulation or, like, exerting or whatever the word is. Like, we kind of know, like, okay, everything is getting, like, the bare minimum out of me because
Yeah.
I don't have it to give. But I think that one of the things that not a lot of people talk about is being understimulated.
Mhm.
And I know that if there is not enough going on in my life, then I also have reduced capacity because I'm not getting, like, the baseline things that I need in
Yeah.
order to kind of, like, hit my window. And then within that window, there are things that change. But, like, if I'm already, like, checked out or not feeling something, then my it's almost like my battery drains even faster
Yeah.
than it would if I was at that, like, baseline. So kind of knowing, like, what you need to function
Mhm.
at your best, and then when you are at your best, what that means for capacity. Like, if I'm, having a really good brain week and day and everything's great and I'm on top of it, then, like, I know that I can do more, my capacity grows. But then at my worst, we also need to know our capacity that we actually probably need to know our bare minimum capacity the most. And I do this a lot with my clients that are depressed is we talk about, like, what is the absolute least that you can do and still feel like a human.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, then, like, we build up self-care and, like, the resources that kind of cancel out whatever you, like, for sure have to put out in a
Mhm.
day. And I think a lot of people, when they think about capacity building on an organizational level, they focus on, like, well, this is what we should be able to do, or, like, this is how long it should take,
Mhm.
instead of, like, actually looking at the people in front of them and, like, what their capacity is and what realistically has been done before instead of, like, what aspirationally has been done.
Mhm. Well, I think for a lot of people that I think there is a belief that a lot of people have that their capacity will, like, reset as they change environments. So, like,
Hmm.
work me might be drained, but, like, home me still has resources to give. I think for some people who
People really think like that?
I think people who are able to, like,
Huh.
compartmentalize in some ways
Do
believe
you do
that.
that?
No, I think, like, it's more integrated, but I think for some people
It's like, that is not the case for any of that's not how my brain works or anybody that I work with,
yeah,
really, so I haven't really.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think for some people, there is, like, the belief that, like, I might have, like, used up all of my spoons that I allocated to work, but I should still have, like, resources to
Ooh,
give other places.
that would be nice.
I think for a lot of parents, they feel like that is the expectation, is that,
Mhm.
like, you are drained at work, but you have to show up for your kids, and you have to be present, and you have to go to these things,
Mhm.
and if we're not aware of whether we can compartmentalize or not, I think is a good one to start with.
Mhm.
And then realizing where are we allocating our resources and how are we being mindful that 12 spoons has to last us a whole day, not a whole work day, but a
Mhm.
whole day. That we have to be really mindful of how things are going out and what are we doing to replenish our resources
Mhm.
to make sure that we can effectively allocate these resources throughout the day. And I think for a lot of people, new projects or work or something that they're super passionate about, or something that they're really like excited to be on a team
Mhm.
can restore some resources. But if we are not mindful that the organization also has the resources to support that continued project or that continued passion, then
Mhm.
that thing that was really excited and might have actually restored some things at the beginning
Mhm.
might become the thing that is like actively draining the majority of your resources as time goes on if
Mhm.
there's not the infrastructure and the systems to take some of the load off the employees and put some of the load onto the organization.
Yeah, I think it may be beneficial for us to, like, more operationally define, like, resources as well,
Mhm.
on, like, what we're talking about. So when we say, like, the resources that you have, for, like, one individual, that might mean, like, this is the amount of sustained attention that you can give before you need to, like, take a break.
Yeah.
It might be that this is the amount of socialization that you can do, or like the set amount of meetings that like you feel like you can handle, or tasks in a week.
Mhm.
Um, or, you know, whatever it may be. Like there are certain things that you know that like this is how much you can give before you start to notice or like feel like you're out, or your
Mhm.
performance starts to like decline.
Yeah.
On an organizational level, that may be things like stress and money and complaints or outcomes from people, or the wishes of the board.
KPIs.
Yeah, like those kinds of things where like on an individual level, you may not feel them, and but they do exist.
Mhm.
So like I guess an example would be, now that you brought up like KPIs, it might be that like for an organization, you want to serve 3,000 people a year
Mhm.
in whatever it is that you do. But as a staff of, you have 10 people that can work with these people, and all of them can only see 250 a year.
Mhm.
There's now a gap between the 25,000 people that you can actually serve, given the resources that you have available and like the manpower and what they can each handle, with what the goals of the organization are.
Mhm.
So what do we do with that to like close the gap? Well, some organizations would say, you guys got to do better. Like this is the goal on the organization. So everybody
HRP has to
needs to
see
do,
50 more people a
yeah,
year
figure it out.
to
Like,
close the gap. Yeah.
and when that happens, maybe on an organizational level, you're thinking like, we should have the capacity to do this because
Mhm.
we thought we would when we made this goal.
Yeah.
But it's very, I don't know, like dismissive, I guess, of the needs of the people in front of you. If you expect everybody who appears, I guess, to be doing the best they can, to then extend themselves beyond what they have to give in order to meet the organizational goals.
Mhm.
A more responsive organization would say, you know what? Our goal is 3,000, but it's looking like we can only do that if we add another person. And since we don't have another person, we're going to scale back that goal, and we're going to be more realistic in the future. And then maybe we will look at adding somebody to like help
Mhm.
close the gap there. But I think like the capacity building part is in there will always be a gap
Yeah.
between like what you can do and what your goals are. And if there's not, then you need to have bigger goals. Like goals should be aspirational.
Yeah.
But if we confront the gap in a way that costs people their humanity, then something is not correct.
Yeah. That's like your phone battery. If your phone battery is at 10%, putting it in low power mode, closing out all the apps is not going to magically add
And you won't
battery
get
power
charged
back.
back.
Right. The only way to get like a charge back in your phone is to go plug it in.
Mhm.
So adjusting and being responsive is not going to magically create capacity, but it is going to be mindful of what the actual capacity is.
Yeah.
And I think that is an important piece for most of the people that we work with, our human services organizations,
Mhm.
that there is always a vested interest in the people that they are serving.
Yeah.
They want what's good for the people that they work with. And a lot of people, I think lived experience is so common in these human services organizations.
Mhm.
Some people will overextend their capacity
Because they care.
because they care. They know what it's like to be on the other side of needing services. There's a lot of reasons
Mhm.
beyond, I guess, like ignorance, where people push beyond their capacity. And
Yeah, they feel like they don't have a choice. They feel like everything will go wrong if they don't do it. I mean, it's the same thing that we would hear from parents or,
yeah,
you know, families, that it's like, well, everybody's depending on me, or if I don't do this, then we can't pay our bills, or
mhm,
like everything feels really high stakes. That tends to be the actual reason that people are going beyond their capacity, because they have to,
yeah,
not because they
want to.
want to, or they didn't notice that they were like in over their head.
Yeah, and then that is the role of like the organization and what we talked about in our episode last week, the
Mhm.
importance of systems is that if you build good systems, if you build up a middle layer of support and an equitable distribution of expectations
Mhm.
and like pull on resources, is that you will increase capacity by increasing support and having
Mhm.
some level of like automation or just like a middle level of like expectation setting. that people know what the goal is or people have a clear understanding of what's expected of them. And I think capacity comes from everybody taking up a little bit rather than one person saying, I'm just going to take all of these things. Like
Mhm.
that doesn't increase capacity. You've just redistributed resources at that point.
Yeah, well, and I think that happens a lot is that there is one person who has decided, for whatever reason it may be, that they are willing to give their full capacity to work or, whatever it is. And then everybody else kind of like maintains what they can.
Yeah.
And if that person they quit because they can't handle it anymore, or they have a mental breakdown, or they get fired, or whatever, if they stop doing what it is that they've been doing, it throws off everything.
Yeah.
Because they were doing more than their share, and that's what everybody had learned to depend on.
Hmm.
And so, like, when we're talking about systems, we want the things that could be done without requiring somebody to use time, energy, resources, whatever, on them, but still need to happen, could happen that way. I think a really good example is automations around workflows.
Mm.
So once one thing is done, there's a bunch of new tasks.
Yeah.
There are people that are spending all this time, having to write out um like, this is what we did, and then now we're ready for
Yeah.
this step or whatever, when a system could do that for you.
100%.
And that, like, everybody would know what this next step means and like who's responsible for it and so on and so forth, but not, I guess, not being realistic about the capacity of the people involved, or with the if the organization is like unwilling to give anything in order to accomplish those things, then you're just going to stay stuck in a
Hmm.
loop of, "Ugh, why aren't we reaching our goals? Everybody needs to do better. What's wrong with you? Here's a new tool." Like, if we're not
Hmm.
actually like trying to understand why people's capacity is not matching up with what you need it to,
Yeah.
that is what will happen over and over and over again.
Yeah. I think and the number one assumption that I would love to see challenged in the majority of like professional spaces in
Mhm.
any way is the belief that if we're not meeting our goals, that it's because people aren't trying enough. I think if we
Mhm.
can challenge that narrative and get to question asking and assessment and truly breaking down resources and capacity and
Mhm.
all of those things, that I think most of the answers would come from an explanation other than people aren't trying their best.
Yeah, or they don't want to meet them.
Right.
Yeah. And even like when I teach people about expectations, and maybe we could do a whole episode on that
Yeah.
concept. But I think one of the things that I always talk about is like, and I use the example of breakfast in bed with you,
Yeah.
because I don't know, I think it's cute.
Yeah.
But like, if I expect you to bring me breakfast in bed every morning, and I wake up tomorrow and there you are bringing me breakfast in bed, then my expectation was up here, but my reality was also up here. Like,
Mhm.
they matched perfectly. So I'm chilling.
Yeah.
But if I wake up in 3 weeks and I smell bacon and I'm like, smells like breakfast, and I lay there and I wait and I wait and I wait, and you're never there. And I come downstairs and there you are, like, eating bacon and having a great time. My expectations were up here, but my reality
Yeah.
down here. So all of the space between my expectation and reality is disappointment. And so when we want to close that gap between expectations and reality, we have options. We either lower our expectations, but like, people don't want to do that because that sucks. But sometimes that's the right answer. Other times we need to adjust reality
Mhm.
to fit our expectations. And then other times it's kind of a little bit of both. And I think the majority of the time it's both. But a lot of the reasons that we can rule out for people not meeting our expectations, it's like, first they have to know that they exist.
Mhm.
If I don't ever tell you that I want breakfast in bed, but I'm sitting up there every day, like, stewing, like, that's on me because I should have told you. Like, I at least need to give you the opportunity to meet the expectation, which you cannot do if I don't tell you about it. Then you have to actually be capable of meeting that expectation.
Mm.
Like, let's say we have no breakfast food in the house. And I'm sitting here like, I want breakfast in bed. Well, you are not a magician or a tree. And for that reason, you can't conjure up a breakfast for me that is not available.
Yeah,
And so having like the actual ability to do that is important.
for sure.
And then teaching you like what that looks like
Mhm.
also, because my breakfast in bed, I could have like a 20-course meal in mind, and you bring me a Pop Tart. I'm going to be disappointed
Practice is
because I
practice.
wasn't specific. And so we have to like kind of rule out that people know that we have expectations. They know how to meet them. They're capable of meeting them.
Mhm.
And then we also have to make sure that people agree to meet them. We can't hold people accountable to expectations that they didn't agree to, and to be upset that they don't meet them. I mean, you can be upset, but like you don't really have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to like capacity, right? Like we can not tell people that they're what their expectations are. We can avoid telling them how exactly to meet that. We can say like, oh, you don't really seem like you're capable of doing meeting these KPIs, but like you need to figure it out.
Mhm.
And they can be screaming in our faces like, "Hey, I can't do this." And then we're still over here like, "Well, why isn't it done?" And it's like, well,
Yeah,
all of these reasons are the reason that they're not done.
absolutely.
And it just, yeah, as you can see, I'm passionate about that because it's ridiculous.
What I'll let you pick and I'll give advice. I'm gonna ask for advice for 2 things. You
Okay.
pick which one you wanna give advice for, and I'll give advice for the other one.
Okay.
You to give a piece of advice to, like, an individual who's part of an organization or someone who's responsible, like, in an executive role
Hmm.
for a system. What advice would you give on the first step to assessing capacity, either of an organization or themselves as an individual?
Well, I think it's likely that the process would be the same
Mhm.
um, for both. But I think first you need to like assess what you're realistically like what your trends are, your averages. So a lot of times I will like have individuals that I work with in therapy, or organizations like sit there and write out or keep track of like what is it that you're doing with your
Mhm.
time. And that might be in a day or in a week, even in a month. Like actually keep track of that. And then there needs to be multiple samples. So if you're an executive and you have 3 direct reports,
Mhm.
then you need to look at all 3 of them to figure out, like, what is the average that somebody else could do, and if it's you as an individual, look at 3 different weeks, especially if you are a woman
Mhm.
or a person, I guess, especially if you're a person that has a uterus and a period, because capacity differs. We talked about this on some other episode, I don't remember, but, like, it differs throughout the month,
Mhm.
and so if you are just, like, expecting your capacity to be the same way and don't recognize how a 28-day cycle works, then you should read up on that.
For sure.
But I think step first thing would be to understand, like, what your average output can be.
Well, and I also think an important thing is it is not what the best employee who's ever had that role has done.
No, 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 the
It needs to be
average.
the average of your current team
Yeah,
and
what you are
system.
working with.
Correct. I think that is an important
Yes. Yeah, not what you should be or not, like, on a good day or, like, "Well,
not
in the future, we probably will." None of that.
not what Susie did 3 years ago when
Nope.
she had that job.
No. Today, like, the present moment, and that changes over time, and it should,
Yeah,
because if not, then you don't need people. Like, it's not people infused if it
yeah,
doesn't change with people. Um, but, yeah, so I think, like, understanding what your capacity is and then matching it up next to your goals on, like, what would you need to do in order to reach your goal? And if there is a mismatch, then you need to figure out how to address that. And I guess that process could continue from there, and I could get very detailed, but I'm not going to.
I think it's a good
Um,
first step.
but I think like first, like assess like what is your capacity like,
Mhm.
and I think another piece of capacity, and this actually we could probably just put it on our website because we have it. Um, is really nice for like something we call the personal battery.
Yeah,
I think that was your brainchild.
it was.
Yay.
Yeah.
um,
Yay, one of my
Yes,
ideas.
I know, that's why I try to give you credit every time. So we can put it on our website, but, like, looking at, like, not just the things that drain you, but also the things that recharge you,
Absolutely.
um, would kind of go from there, because there's some things that at work might actually build your own individual capacity, and you can plan for those,
Absolutely.
to, like, add them in. So, I guess that would be the other thing is paying attention to of the tasks that you're getting done,
Yep.
how do you feel after you do them? Not before and not how you think you might feel, but, like, actually wait until you've done it and then ask yourself, "Do I feel more like do I feel better than before I did this or more tired, more drained?" Whatever. And that'll give you a good idea on, like, what that looks like.
Yeah. I would say a little teaser for our episode next week. A very good first step is being curious. That if you start asking questions, and we approach understanding ourselves from a lens of curiosity, I think
Mhm.
a lot changes because I think a lot of people often address their capacity from a judgmental piece of why can't I do more? And so I think we will talk more about this next week.
Yeah,
But
we
I
could do
think
a whole thing on shoulds because it
yeah,
drives me nuts.
but I think being curious would be my first starting point.
Yeah, start asking, like, what
Yep.
is going on? Just questions after
Yeah.
questions.
All right, let's get into our weekly report.
Okay.
We're gonna speed run this report because we got to go to 6.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say we could come back, but alright. Reading. I have actually had 3 do not finishes this week. I've started 3 books, I have not liked them, so I'm not reading anything right now because I keep trying to figure it out. But I've been writing psych reports, so I've been reading a lot of manuals and background information.
Yeah. D23 happened this weekend, so I've been reading about all of the Disney news that I could possibly get my hands on.
Yeah,
So excited.
eating.
I went to a Rays game with my parents on Saturday and I had a short rib grilled cheese. Excellent.
Amazing.
Delicious.
Um, I could not tell you what I've eaten recently. I don't
I
remember.
had salad yesterday.
Oh, it's fine. I wouldn't give it my eating spot.
Or Tim Hortons.
Mm. We did go to Yoder's
Mhm.
on Friday,
Yes.
and I got a strawberry cream pie, and that was
Yeah.
delish.
It's delicious.
That's my eating.
Playing.
Well, we're about to go see 6.
Yeah.
And
Went to a Rays game yesterday.
I'm doing some crafting stuff, done stuff with the garden,
Yeah.
so lots of nice little moments this week.
Obsessing.
Obsessing. Well, we're about to renew our obsession for 6. But also obsessing with Monty, our dog. If I have not talked about this already, I have trained him to use buttons that say treat. And every time he wants a treat. And I like that.
Obsessing. You perpetually.
But
I would also say our son.
yeah.
He is doing really well with our treatment for his arthritis.
Did we talk about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's
Well,
being a trooper. Our dog has arthritis. We're having to give him shots.
we have to inject him. It's sad, but we're doing okay.
He's being a trooper.
Yeah.
I'm super proud of him. Recommending.
Um,
Go see 6.
yeah, recommending 6. Also recommending giving yourself time to do things apart if you are in a relationship or have roommates or whatever. I think it is easy, especially for us. We spend essentially 24 hours in the same spaces. And every time we spend time apart, I think it's good and we remember like, oh, I like you and like I enjoy spending time with you and I choose to be in a space with you. That's probably the sappiest you guys will hear me, but yeah, like I think just hug the people that you love. Oh, okay. Another thing that we did that was playing is we went to the sound bath at a planetarium.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird, and maybe we'll talk about that at another time. For various reasons. But if you've never done a sound bath, like you should just it sounds weird, I know, but like it is so good. We love them. And a really good addition to our self-care.
Yeah. Treating. Treat yourself to time with family, whether it is your biological or chosen family, or go spend time with your community. It does good things for your brain and your heart and your soul.
Yeah. And Emily yesterday pulled tarot cards for me because I asked her to, because she was watching something.
The Try Guys.
The Try Guys. And it basically was Emily's interpretation of the tarot reading for me was that work-life balance is important, but you can't have that if you procrastinate and just ignore all of your tasks.
Word.
So would treat yourself to work-life balance, but that does not unfortunately mean only doing life.
Yeah. All right. We're going to go see 6.
Yeah. We'll tell you guys how it is.
All right. Thanks for talking shop with us.
Bye.
Bye.